Welcome back. Today, March 20, 2026. Six stories today. So let's go. The Mahad Satyagraha. So first of all, we have the centenary year begins today. Today, March 20, marks exactly 99 years since B.R. Ambedkar led thousands of Dalits to drink water from the Chavdar tank in Mahad, Maharashtra on March 20, 1927. The Maharashtra government has launched the centenary year today, flagging off the Kranti Jyot Yatra and announcing a 55.8 crore upgrade of the historic site, with celebrations running until March 20, 2027. Now, the Mahad Satyagraha was the first organized movement in India asserting that Dalits had the legal right to use a public water tank. The government has announced purification and beautification of the Chavdar tank site, converting it into a memorial of constitutional significance. A year long state campaign to spread awareness of the Mahad message connects this 1927 event to today's constitutional framework. Mahad Satyagraha is the 1927 civil rights movement led by Ambedkar asserting Dalit rights to public water. Chavdar tank is the public water tank in Mahad, site of the 1927 Satyagraha. Caste discrimination is the social hierarchy denying rights based on birth based caste. B.R. Ambedkar is the architect of the constitution, led the Mahad Satyagraha. Untouchability, as per Article 17, the constitutional linked to Article 17, constitutional provision that abolishes untouchability completely, and social reform movement is 19th century efforts to challenge caste and religious discrimination. Then we have the Chhattisgarh Freedom of Religion Bill 2026 passed. Now, the Chhattisgarh Assembly passed the Freedom of Religion Bill 2026 on March 20, 2026, replacing the 1968 Act inherited from the Madhya Pradesh when Chhattisgarh was created in 2000. Now, the bill prescribes life imprisonment for mass conversions and 20 years imprisonment where the victim is a minor, woman, or a member of SC/ST OBC communities. All offences are cognizable and non bailable. Now, this is the sharpest provision in any state level freedom of religion act so far. Most earlier state laws prescribed up to 3 to 7 years. The bill targets conversion through force, fraud, inducement, or misrepresentation. This graduated penalty structure mirrors the protection of children from sexual offences act logic, heavier punishment when vulnerable persons are targeted. Any conversion done solely for the purpose of marriage or marriage done to facilitate conversion is declared legally void unless proper legal procedures are followed. This directly targets what the bill's proponents call love jihad. Now, the Freedom of Religion Act, the state law regulating religious conversion, currently in about 12 states. Anti conversion law is the common term for Freedom of Religion Act that restricts forced induced conversion. Article 25 is the right to freedom of conscience and free profession, practice, and propagation of religion. Article 26 is right of religious denominations to manage their own religious affairs. Cognizable and non-bailable offense. Police can arrest without warrant. Bail is not a right. And ancestral religion reconversion, which is returning to one's original religion, not treated as conversion under this bill. Next, we have the Sensex falls 2497 points as oil hits $114 per barrel. Now, Indian markets crashed on March 19, 2026. The Sensex fell 2497 points to 74,207, and Nifty dropped 776 points to 23,002. The trigger was Brent crude jumping $6.66 to $114.04 per barrel, and a 6.2% single session spike, driven by the US Iran Israel conflict, disrupting oil infrastructure in the Gulf. Saudi Arabia's Yanbu port briefly halted oil loading after refinery damage, pushing Brent to $119.5 at its peak. Now, this matters because oil at $114 is a macro shock. Every $10 rise in crude adds approximately $15 billion to India's annual import bill. A 3% plus single day crash reflects both direct economic concern and FII, foreign institutional investor outflows. When global risk rises, FIIs pull money out of the emerging markets like India and move to safe haven assets like US Treasuries, triggering currency and equity falls together. Now, India's fundamental vulnerability is structural. It has almost no domestic crude production relative to its needs. To its needs, the pass-through effect means global oil shocks become domestic retail price hikes within weeks. Now, Brent crude is basically international benchmark for oil prices set in the North Sea, used as India's pricing reference. Current account deficit is the excess of imports over exports of goods and services. Imported inflation is inflation caused by rising prices of imported goods, especially crude oil. FII outflow is the foreign institutional investors selling India assets and taking money out of the country. West Asia conflict is ongoing US Israel Iran tensions disrupting Gulf oil production and shipping, and the pass through effect is how global commodity price rises translate into domestic consumer price inflation. Next, we have the new GDP series. Base year shifted to 2022-2023. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation (MOSPI) released India's new GDP series on February 27, 2026, shifting the base year from 2011-12 to 2022-23, the eighth such revision in India's history. Now, rebasing also covers the index of industrial production, and the consumer price index. The back series has been extended all the way to 1950-51. Now, this matters because the base year revision is done to update the weights given to different sectors in the economy. Services now dominate, digital transactions are widespread, and consumption patterns have changed sharply since 2011 and 12. Now, all three key macro indicators now share the same reference year, making them mutually consistent for economic analysis. Real-time data sources like GST, network, PFMS, and eVahan are now integrated into the new series, improving timeliness and coverage. The back series allows historical comparison using the new methodology, so researchers and exam setters can ask about India's GDP growth across decades on a consistent basis. Base year revision is updating the reference year for index calculations to reflect current economic structure. MOSPI is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Then we have the National Account Statistics, which is official framework for measuring a country's GDP and its components. Index of Industrial Production is the measures monthly growth rate of industrial output, also rebased. Gross value added is the GDP minus taxes plus subsidies. Sector level economic output measure, and GDP deflator is the price index used to convert nominal GDP to real GDP derived from new base year. Then the Nilgiri Tahar, population up to 21%, survey done. Now the 2025 synchronized population survey of the Nilgiri Tahar conducted jointly by Kerala and Tamil Nadu forest departments with the IUCN observer recorded 2655 individuals, a 21% rise from the previous survey. Tamil Nadu counted 1303 and Kerala 1352. The survey covered 3126 km on foot across 177 blocks in 14 forest divisions using 786 frontline staffs, drones, and radio collaring. Now, a 21% rise in a single survey cycle for an endangered species is significant. It validates the Project Nilgiri Tahar approach launched by Tamil Nadu in 2022. The Nilgiri Tahar is endemic to Western Ghats, found nowhere else on Earth. Its IUCN endangered status means it faces a very high risk of extinction. As Tamil Nadu state's animal, it has policy priority, connecting biodiversity, Western Ghats ecology, and state level conservation governance in one species. Now, the project mirrors Project Tiger, and Project Elephant in structure, dedicated funding, species specific action plan, and interstate coordination. Nilgiri tahar is the mountain ungulate endemic to Western Ghats, Tamil Nadu state animal, IUCN Red List, endangered, second highest threat category, very high extinction risk. Mukurthi National Park is the key Nilgiri tahar habitat in Nilgiris district, Tamil Nadu. Annamalai Tiger Reserve is the second major tahar habitat in Tamil Nadu, also called Indira Gandhi Wildlife Sanctuary. Western Ghats is UNESCO World Heritage Biodiversity Hotspot, one of eight hottest hotspots globally, and Project Nilgiri Tahar is Tamil Nadu's 2022 species recovery program for Nilgiri Tahar conservation. Next, we have the health insurance gap, the missing middle. So, a March 20, a March 2026 analysis highlights that approximately 40 crore Indians fall into the missing middle, too wealthy to qualify for PMJ, which is Ayushman Bharat, too poor to afford private health insurance. Budget 2026-27 allocated 9,500 crore for Ayushman Bharat and announced intent to extend coverage to gig and platform workers. Now, India's health coverage has a structural gap. PMJ covers the bottom 40% of households. Formal sector workers have ESI or CGHS, but the middle 30 to 40% self employed, small traders, gig workers, informal laborers above the poverty line have no scheme covering them. A single hospitalization can push these families into poverty. Now, for a family earning 3 to 6 lakhs per year, annual health insurance premiums of 24,000 to 66,000 consume about 10 to 20% of income, making voluntary insurance financially impossible. The budget 2026-27 increased the Ayushman Bharat allocation to 9,500 crore and signaled extension to gig and platform workers, the fastest growing segment of India's informal workforce. Now, this move towards universal health coverage, or the UHC, India's SDG 3 commitment, but the missing middle gap requires a dedicated intermediate insurance architecture. But what is the missing middle? So this is basically population group between PMJ beneficiaries and formal sector insured workers. PMJ is Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, 5 lakh annual health cover for bottom 40% households. Universal health coverage is the SDG 3 goal, ensuring all people get health services without financial hardship. Gig workers is the platform-based contract workers, largely uninsured, sorry. ESI employs state insurance, covers formal sector workers earning up to 21,000 per month, and out-of-pocket expenditure, which is health costs paid directly by individuals. India's out-of-pocket expenditure (OOP) is among Asia's highest. That's it for today. Mahaj anniversary, religion bill and market crash for current affairs, GDP rebasing for economy, Nilgiri Tahar for environment, and the missing middle for social welfare. Stay consistent. See you, see you tomorrow. Thank you.